For several years now, the world has been engulfed by a new unknown epidemic. It starts with standard symptoms: fever, chills, delirium. But eventually the patient turns into a talker, endlessly spouting incoherent words, losing their sanity and connection to reality. The transmission method is also very unusual. You can only get infected by hearing a talker speak. Because of this, strict bans on conversations have been implemented worldwide, and anyone going outside must wear special headphones. The Bureau for Epidemic Control, BEC, enforces these rules, but it seems its representatives pose an even greater threat to humanity. Murad Siyavush, a linguist, is a person immune to the strange disease. The only unpleasant symptom he experiences when exposed to talkers is a severe headache and a rise in head temperature, which quickly subsides. On his way home, Murad notices a girl without headphones at an empty bus stop. Risking being caught, he speaks to her, but the girl doesn't respond, burying her nose in a book and pretending not to hear him. In secret from BEC, Murad goes to his mother's house. However, the woman doesn't give her son a moment to rest. She demands that he go to the store to buy soap, despite the ban on leaving the house. Passing by the bus stop again, Murad notices a letter left for him by the mysterious girl. This becomes a breath of fresh air for him after years of living under BEC's scrutiny. In the store, the worst fear of the people is realized. A talker begins speaking to Murad. Panic ensues, and customers are thrown out onto the street, but a boy without headphones remains in the store. Murad can't bring himself to abandon the child. He gives the boy his headphones and tries to get out. All the while, the infected talker spews incoherent nonsense, causing Murad a severe headache. Outside, Murad presses a cold pack to his head to lower his rising temperature. Anton, the head of BEC, arrives at the bureau. He learns about the recent incident in the store and reviews the camera footage, which clearly shows Murad's suffering. The agent gathers information on the mysterious man and discovers that Murad had visited the hospital several times with a feverish head. From that moment, Anton declares a hunt for Murad to find out how the man manages to resist the disease. Murad's headphones fall into the hands of agents, and Anton manages to trace their serial number. The system provides interesting information. Murad is listed as a BEC employee. Unaware that they are digging into his life, Murad buys a pass to the bureau to delete the camera footage and obtain the dossier on Oscar, an old friend who knows how Murad gained immunity. Disguised as an employee, Murad infiltrates the building. At the same time, Anton assembles a team to capture the strange man from the store. Murad discovers that Oscar is no longer alive, but looking at the photos of the body, he starts to doubt it. He tries to delete the store's video, but the system rejects his password, forcing Murad to flee. BEC vehicles arrive at Murad's house. The agents search the apartment, but his mother manages to hang a red Christmas tree ornament on the window, warning her son of the danger. Murad escapes the bureau's agents and hides in the house of an old friend, Kartem. Despite his dedication to the cause, Anton also has secrets from BEC. He secretly enters the restricted zone and has a strange conversation with his assistant. Murad visits the home of Kenan, a friend of Oscar. The host isn't thrilled with the visitor, but Murad asks him to closely examine the pills he brought, marked with a vortex, the same symbol tattooed on Oscar's hand. Kenan is convinced that someone stole his design because the vortex was made personally for Oscar, but he doesn't understand its significance now that the tattoo's owner is dead. The only help Kenan offers is a lead. He tells Murad to search for the pill maker in the 6th zone. Seizing a box of tapes with recordings of the talker's chatter, Anton finds one that stands out. The agent hesitates for a long time, but eventually presses play and hears Murad's voice. The man is keeping a research diary and confirms Anton's suspicion. He is immune and couldn't become a talker even if he wanted to. Anton shares his discovery with his partner, but the agent's initiative is not approved. Fazil, the head of BEC, summons Anton and orders him to drop the Murad case if he wants to keep his job. Anton doesn't mention the tapes to his boss. Murad leaves a signal and brief instructions for his mother in case of emergency. The woman sneaks out of the house and goes to her sister's apartment to meet Murad. Anton tries to access Murad's dossier, but the information is classified. Murad gives away a family heirloom to get a pass to the 6th zone. He hopes that his friend Oscar is still alive and that he will be able to save the world from the talkers. While the dealer prepares forged documents, Beck vehicles arrive at the building. Defying his superior's orders, Anton continues to search for Murad, but the man manages to escape. After the failed operation, Anton returns to his secret hideout. Putting on headphones, the agent lights candles on a birthday cake and enters a room where his wife and son greet him. Both of them have been talkers for several months. At the entrance to the 6th zone, Murad sees his face plastered on all the poles. His nerves begin to fray, and he considers leaving, but the girl from the bus stop unexpectedly comes to his aid. The stranger kisses Murad, pretending they are together. Shula, the girl's name, helps Murad get into the very center of the 6th zone. She leads him to her hideout, offering to introduce him to her plans. Shula brings up the troubling topic. She didn't help Murad out of mere kindness. She confesses that she is part of the +1 organization and they need help from someone with immunity. Unwilling to get involved in another mess, Murad runs away. But Shul doesn't give up. She approaches a group of talkers, showing that it would be easier for her to get infected than to back down. The girl leaves, but she writes coordinates on Murad's hand where he can find her if he changes his mind. Murad returns to his old apartment where he was once happy with his wife. Back then, everyone still had hope that the epidemic would soon end and the world would return to normal. Fazil meets with a secret agent and informs him about Anton's investigation. The boss assigns the mercenary to find Murad and deal with it in their usual manner. No one must know that the talkers can be cured. After reminiscing, Murad sets out to search for clues about Oscar, but he's already being watched in the yard. A group of men abducts Murad and takes him to the +1 base. Shul manages to save her friend just in time. She explains to her comrades that Murad is her friend, and as an apology, she asks the team to help them search for Oscar. Having sorted everything out, Shula invites her friend to record her interview. In it, she candidly talks about her past life and how she joined the resistance. +1 has been fighting BEC for several years, insisting that talkers are still human. In the opposition's view, the Bureau does more harm to the world than the strange virus. Anton notices that his son in the basement is severely injured. The man goes downstairs to treat the boy's face, and in his panic, he lets his guard down. He doesn't immediately notice that someone is watching the house from outside. Finally, Anton steps into the yard to take a look around, but Kanan, the agent's partner, manages to leave unnoticed. Walking through the streets of the 6th zone, Murad and Shule encounter a group of talkers. Murad gives his headphones to his friend and places her hand on his forehead, allowing her to see firsthand his strange reaction to the disease. After the infected leave, the girl looks at her friend with concern, but he quickly recovers and, as usual, remains sane. Murad wakes up at the +1 camp, surrounded by Shule's friends, scientists working on a vaccine. They ask him to help them find a cure, but Murad once again refuses, not wanting to take on others' problems. Finally, Shule persuades her friend to join them, but with one condition. First, she helps him find Oscar. With their first lead, Murad and Shule arrive at the cartel's base, which is distributing the Vortex-marked pills. The visit of the strangers causes panic. The cartel leader punishes one of his subordinates for not warning him of the girl's arrival. Murad tells the gangster about his search, and at that moment, Yasmin, a representative of the pillmaker, appears in the club. Murad tries to chase her down to get more information, but Yasmin drives away. The next time, Yasmin finds Murad herself, and it becomes clear from her first words that Osgur is alive. The girl speaks phrases only he would know, but she doesn't take Murad to his friend. She only leaves a phone number, which they can use to get in touch later. Anton learns from his subordinate that Kanan is very interested in their affairs. Moreover, discovering that his partner has the same mark on her shoulder as he does, Anton realizes it was her outside his house that night. Meanwhile, the girl indeed decides to stick her nose into her colleague's business. She sneaks into his home to find out what he is hiding. Kanan finds evidence gathered by Anton at Murad's house, including dossiers and tapes with recorded talker chatter. But this isn't enough for the spy. She goes down to the basement and discovers the talkers that Anton didn't hand over to the Bureau as required by law. Anton appears behind the traitor and drags her out of the room. Murad's phone rings right in the middle of a +1 meeting as they prepare for a protest action. Yasmin tells him where he needs to go. Shul accompanies her friend to the meeting, not wanting to risk his safety. Kanan begs her partner to let her go, promising to keep his secret. She insists that BEC's only goal is to find a cure. But lately, Anton has begun to seriously doubt this, and he plans to find out what's really going on. The pair arrives at the location, but there they find only an envelope with a riddle that Murad must solve in 40 seconds. The guy manages to solve the puzzle, and for that, he gets a chance to crack a safe. To do this, he must also solve a difficult puzzle, but finally, the paper with the next address is in Murad's hands. Talking to Kanan, Anton remembers how his son and wife got infected by the talkers. Returning to those terrible days is difficult for the man, and his nerves give out. He raises his gun and orders the spy to kneel. Using Yasmin's clues, Murad finds the ferry they once rode with his friend. There they are forced to strip and check for bugs. Only after that does the group get the chance to move forward. At the last moment, Shul is forbidden to go any further, and the pair is separated. Kanan reports to Fazil. She hands over the tapes and Murad's dossier to the boss, but she keeps her promise. She doesn't mention Anton's family. The gratitude for the spy's loyalty comes in the form of a strange act. Fazil forces Kanan to listen to the chatter, ensuring she can never reveal what she uncovered. Murad is brought to a labyrinth, a place where a dangerous game takes place. Those who fail to pass through it become talkers, and Yasmin tells Murad that Shul is somewhere inside. The girl offers Murad a choice. He can follow her and reach Osgur, but in that case, Shule won't have a chance to escape. Without hesitation, the hero jumps into the labyrinth to save his friend. He rushes through crowds of talkers who continue to gather. The headache becomes so intense that Murad can barely stay on his feet. He loses consciousness, but the voices of Shule and Osgur bring him back to his senses. Fully awake, Murad can't resist the urge to punish Osgur for his long absence. Yasmin stops Murad, understanding that this could go on forever. The new drug turns Osgur's pain into pleasure, and he won't resist. Shul congratulates her friend on achieving his goal and reminds him of their agreement. She takes the phone and leaves, promising to contact her friend soon. Osgur asks his friend to tell him everything that has happened to him. The scientist is extremely proud that he was the one who made Murad resistant to the chatter, and he wants to hear all the details about his achievement. But Murad doesn't share his friend's enthusiasm. He asks to have his brain reprogrammed to be like everyone else's. The man is convinced that it's better to become a talker than to end up as a guinea pig for BEC. Before returning to business, Osgur suggests they play basketball, but with a small addition of blue pills. Murad agrees, wagering his own head. If he wins, he wants a complete brain reprogramming. Osgur's pills turn out to be quite good. Murad experiences a flight of fantasy like he could never have imagined. The effect hits him with such force that it amuses the scientist greatly. A few hours later, the effects of the pills wear off, and the friends manage to have a normal conversation. Murad asks his friend to explain why he disappeared and didn't stay in touch, to which Osgur recounts the story of that fateful night. Fazil ordered the scientist to sign a document stating that the collective mind and aggression of the talkers were real. Realizing that it was nonsense meant to justify the senseless extermination of the infected, Osgur refused to participate, which led to his dismissal and later his sentence to liquidation. Fazil personally set fire to the laboratory, convinced that the scientist was left there forever. But by some miracle, Osgur managed to escape and hide from Beeg's attention. Shul notices that Arif, one of the movement's members, is planning something again. Around this time, women who suffered at the hands of BEC officers appear in the zone, and Arif declares that he will no longer remain silent. Anton continues to search for Murad, hoping that he can cure his family. Informants lead him to the cartel's hideout, but the agent fails to get information. A BEC squad storms in, and Anton is ordered to report to Fazil. The boss personally interrogates Anton and orders him to continue the search for Murad, but he makes it clear that this must remain between them. Otherwise, he will report Anton's infected family to the higher-ups. Incidentally, the family is now in BEC's hands. The reunited friends have a great time at a nightclub. So much so that in the morning, Murad, Shul, and Yasmin wake up in the same bed. But unlike his friend, Murad doesn't feel awkward. He's more concerned about his friend's plans. The man wants to undergo the procedure and become like everyone else as soon as possible. Unaware of Murad's intentions, Shul suggests they seek help at the +1 laboratory. According to her, they have everything needed to study Murad's peculiarity. Anton finds Haydar, Fazil's mercenary. He demands that the soldier return his family, but Haydar doesn't fall for the new partner's threats and advises him to calmly follow orders. The agents return to Murad's apartment for another search, but this time Anton persuades the old woman to trust him and tell the truth so he can protect her son from the Bureau. Suspecting his partner of collusion with the owner, Haydar orders her arrest, but the wise woman finds a way to leave Anton a message about the air fresheners and the guard who knows where to find Murad. Murad and Shule sneak into the laboratory at night to get the necessary equipment. Outside, they are spotted by BEC officers, and by Haydar's order, everyone prepares for the capture. Anton breaks away from the rest, managing to warn the couple with the air freshener that they are being hunted. At the same moment, Osgur appears before them, having broken his rule and risked everything to leave his safe place. The group arrives at a clinic filled with talkers. Murad is sent for an MRI under the pretext of studying his peculiarity. Only he knows that he doesn't just want to be studied. He wants to permanently disable this peculiarity and become like everyone else. Shul accidentally overhears the men's conversation and understands everything. Murad tries to explain his motive to her, but it all seems irrelevant to the girl. She's convinced that her friend has betrayed her and all of humanity. Following the doctor, the group approaches the vehicle that brought the most dangerous talker, Haluk, a 6-stage talker. The seller assures them that this specimen can infect someone in seconds. Even the old man's appearance is terrifying, and the onlookers involuntarily step back. Fazil interrogates Murad's mother, but the woman refuses to testify against her son despite the threats. Meanwhile, Murad returns to the topic of his reprogramming. He asks Oscar not to delay, and the mad scientist promises to address this issue soon. Anton hands his friend a flower he took from Murad's apartment. At the bottom of the pot, he finds a notebook with Arif's address, who can likely tell him where to find his friend. The Bureau receives a report that Murad has been spotted. Haydar doesn't trust the operation to Anton and assembles an entire squad. Nevertheless, Anton manages to break through and enter Arif's house to find out where he can find Murad. Returning to the city, Shuli meets with her deceased fiancé's mother, and together the women head to the city to plant a rose in memory of him. On the way, the friends stop at the Plus First headquarters, and Shul manages to find the book she needs. There in the headquarters, Murad finds Shule and tells her about his mother's arrest. Fazil begins to panic and asks Haydar to speed up the search. If his crimes are revealed to the higher-ups, the leader will face serious consequences. Arif hands Murad an envelope from Anton, which in addition to the letter, contains a green air freshener. This signals to the guy that the agent has indeed switched to his side. Murad begins to have some doubts, but it's clear he has no other options, and he will have to trust the BEC agent. He remembers returning to his mother after his wife's death, and the thought of losing the only close person he has left is unbearable. Alone in her apartment, Shule decodes the document using the BEC charter. Late at night, Anton goes to meet his friend in an abandoned part of the city, but Haydar watches him from the shadows, trying to catch his partner in a lie. The scientists observe the crowd of talkers locked in a room. As part of an experiment, they introduce the most terrifying 6th-level talker to them, and unexpectedly, all the madmen fall silent, staring in horror at their leader. Yasmin is unhappy that her boyfriend gave Murad the door code and even associated with him. The girl is convinced that such carelessness will be Oscar's downfall, and she's not ready to go underground with him. Appearing at the hospital in the middle of the night, Murad asks the doctor to take him to the secure box. The man steps right up to Haluk's cage and removes his headphones, but the dangerous talker doesn't utter a word. Thus, in silence, the friends spend the whole night under the watchful eyes of the medical staff. Anton receives a reply from Murad, in which he agrees to the meeting. Standing at the window, the agent notices Haydar asleep in his car, and to shake off the surveillance, he hires local kids, asking them to distract the driver. Shul tells Murad about the decoded message. According to the girl, the leader of the opposition group, Asli, is preparing to attack BEC. She asks her friend to help stop the madmen who might pay for such a risk with their lives. Anton and Murad meet face-to-face for the first time. The agent admits that at first he was looking for Murad out of duty, but now his personal interest drives him. He hopes that Murad's unique brain will help find a cure and save his family. After hearing Anton out, Murad decides to surrender to Bekitor. Only this way will he achieve the release of his mother and the agent's family. He instructs Anton to deliver a message to Fazil. At exactly 6:47 p.m., he will be in their hands. Murad prepares for captivity, gathering the necessary equipment. At exactly the appointed time, the man arrives at the bureau building. Haydar reports this to his boss, but Fazil can hardly believe it ended so easily. The agents send Murad to the interrogation room. He keeps asking for the time, and at a specific minute, a sleep-inducing gas begins to flow through the ventilation system. Haydar and Anton fall to the floor, losing consciousness. Murad finds his mother and puts a mask on her to prevent her from passing out completely. As he tries to lead her away, armed Haydar appears in the passage, but Anton pushes his partner aside. The group heads for the exit and escapes in a professional disinfection vehicle driven by a dealer. He returns the old woman her family heirloom in exchange for a bag of pills from Oscar. Fazil learns of the failed operation and Anton's actions. As punishment, he orders Haydar to throw his partner in with his wife and son. The agent is saved by a call from Murad. He promises to share secret information, but only with Anton personally. Murad begins to investigate Fazil, suspecting that the head of BEC is trying to hide from the world that a cure for the chatter might be possible. The same suspicions start to arise among the higher-ups. They demand explanations from the director about the incident at the bureau. Oscar becomes furious with his friend's actions, believing that he is putting everyone at risk. The scientist begs his friend to reconsider and cut ties with Plus First to avoid attracting BEC's attention. Shula meets with Asli and tries to dissuade her comrade from the uprising, but the rebel refuses to change her plans. She believes that inaction only makes things worse. Fazıl visits Anton and informs him of Murad's demands. He agrees to release the prisoner for the meeting, but on the condition that after receiving the information, Anton eliminates the only person capable of fighting the chatter. Haydar also receives an assignment. If Anton does not carry out the order, the mercenary is instructed to eliminate both men. Anton arrives at the abandoned ferry and meets with Murad. He speaks about Fazıl's order and admits that for the sake of his family, he is ready to carry it out. But Murad has a plan for this situation. He advises his friend to hold on tight and presses a button on a remote, removing unnecessary people. When Haydar comes to, neither Murad nor Anton is there anymore. The men have escaped to the pier, while the ferry, along with the mercenary, sails out to sea under the control of the dealer and his people. Fazıl is furious at the news but agrees to Murad's terms. He releases Anton's family and secures permission from the leadership to hold a march in support of the talkers. The bureau chief appears on screens, announcing that he has obtained approval for the march. The event will take place on the same day as the opening of a new laboratory. Shuli asks her friend to call off the raid and avoid provocation, but the revolutionary agrees to this only on one condition. They will abandon the plan if the march proceeds peacefully and no one gets hurt. Murad spends another night near Haluk's cell, but this time, the old man breaks his silence and sends strange signals to his guest. In the morning on the day of the march, the city's residents remember those they lost to the chatter. Shul takes a rose again and goes out into the street to finally honor her fiancé's memory. The girl becomes the first to dare to express her stance, but soon people from different parts of the city gather around her, forming a massive column. Before long, thousands of people with banners and mementos appear on the street. BEC officers monitor the situation, but Shule is confident it's just a formality. The crowd approaches the central monument where, as per tradition, they hang the headphones of those who no longer need them. But suddenly, something starts to go wrong. Someone screams in the crowd and a stampede begins, causing Shule to lose her flower pot. The girl has to leave the flower behind to save her life, but Shule refuses to give up the hope symbolized by the rose, and she gestures to the crowd, asking for help. The flower is found underfoot and carefully passed through the crowd. Finally, the rose is planted in the ground, and the deceased man's headphones take their place on the monument. The crowd applauds, even though no one can hear it. The touching moment makes the opposition reconsider. Asli admits to Murad that the raid has been canceled, but Murad is too smart to believe it. He calls Fazıl and warns him of an attack that will happen on the new laboratory. Asli has to confess to her friends that she can't reach the group, and it seems the raid will happen regardless. Along with experienced fighters, the young Arif, who has little chance of returning alive, goes on the dangerous mission. On the way, their vehicle is blocked by Beck officers. The detainees are taken to an abandoned construction site where they prepare to meet their end. But when one of the soldiers removes his mask, it turns out to be Anton, who saved the men's lives at Murad's request. Learning that the raiders were arrested by unknown forces, Faisal is slightly disappointed, but he keeps the rest of his plans intact. He graciously invites his rival to step inside the new laboratory to cut the ribbon and become the new hero. The director invites the guests inside but stays outside himself. Seconds later, the city is shaken by an explosion. Murad and Shulu realize that they will be blamed for it no matter what. Anton asks Murad to help relocate his family, understanding that they face a serious fight with the Bureau ahead, and the only chance to win is to find a cure that will change the world. Murad returns to Ozgur's house, but his friend refuses to help in this dirty game. The only thing he agrees to do for his friend is to give him a place in his hideout to sit out the rest of his life. This offer doesn't interest Murad, and he is ready to leave to avoid causing problems for anyone. But before doing so, he asks his friend to confess what happened during the trials and why there is a connection between him and Haluk. Ozgur is forced to reveal his secret. He can't return Murad to his normal state because he never understood how it happened. The drug he administered to his friend was tested on other infected individuals, but only Murad survived and gained immunity. Murad plans to send his mother and Shuli to a safe place, but the girl refuses to leave until all members of Plus One have left the city. Fazil accepts condolences from the leadership and requests authority to eliminate the saboteurs. Now the tyrant has all the tools to carry out a total purge. The city is flooded with military vehicles and armed men. An even stricter curfew is imposed, and all symbols of freedom, including the planted rose, are destroyed. People are arrested indiscriminately, accused of being involved with Plus One. Some naive movement members believe they just need to make a statement, but Asli understands that their only chance of survival is to flee. But even escaping is difficult. The streets are blocked and the Bureau's officers are everywhere. While rescuing his friends, Arif is seriously injured. Murad rushes to get him to the hospital, but time is running out. Murad then takes the boy to Osgar's house, but the scientist doesn't open the door immediately, afraid of risking his life for the troublesome group. Arif is eventually taken to the hospital, and he undergoes surgery. But whether the boy will survive is unknown. His wounds are too severe. That evening, Arif's loved ones and friends gather around him, and his heart stops. An enraged Murad enters Haluk's cell, removing his headphones. He wants to know what connects them to the strange old man and how it might save humanity. But the talker doesn't utter a word. Murad gathers everyone who has sided with him and reveals his secret about immunity. He admits that he no longer wants to run and intends to fight to the end. And for that, he needs loyal comrades ready to battle. Osgar receives a message from his friend with a location for their departure. The team prepares to leave the city to regroup for a new push, but BEC is one step ahead. They arrive at the hospital before the group can leave. Murad returns to the clinic to retrieve Haluk. The man is convinced that this is their only chance to find answers, and he is willing to risk releasing the most dangerous talker. The team escapes through the emergency exit and heads toward the ambulance, but they can't leave the area. Soldiers stop the fugitives, suspecting who they are. The only way out Murad finds is to remove Haluk's gag. As if understanding that he must save his liberators, Haluk begins to speak, driving the armed mercenaries mad. Thanks to the talker, the team escapes the clinic and heads to the designated location. On the way, Murad calls Osgar, but his friend refuses to leave with the team, hinting that he will stay on the side of the strong. The dealer warns Murad that BEC is already waiting for them. The man realizes that only Osgar could have betrayed them, and now they have to find another way out. Murad manages to smooth things over and find an alternative escape route. The vehicle arrives at another pier where they will fly out on a small plane. Fazil orders his men to hurry so that the fugitives can't escape, but Anton blocks the vehicle's path, allowing his friends to take off safely. The plane takes off. Now everyone except Fazil can breathe a sigh of relief. At that moment, a broadcast of Murad's address begins in the city. He asks people not to lose hope and to believe that a cure will soon be found. Because of her headphones, Shula doesn't hear her phone ringing, but Murad does. Picking up the phone, the boy recognizes Fazil's voice and understands everything. All this time, the traitor wasn't Osgar. The informant was the girl from the bus stop. This is where the series ends.